we have to check that if the collision is righter than the player. So box.x plus box.width is greater or equal than dest rect dot x, and so we have to first check the x coordinate. If we are inside that, if we are inside, then we have to check the y coordinate, so if we are not under it, because there could be a possibility that if we are on if we are above the square and not inside, so we have to check the y coordinate. So box.y, the box is the player, plus box.height is greater or equal than destination rectangle dot y, and we have to check one more, and we have to make one more check. This is for we are not on the other side of the rectangle, because if we are on the other side of the rectangle, there should be another handle for the collision. So we make another end. So box dot x plus box dot width is less or equal than dest rect dot x plus 20. So we just check that are we on the right side or the left side, basically. Okay, and so we check the collision. So if it is happened, then we change the x value equals to 0, because we don't want to move if something is our way. And box.x minus minus, we go back a little to not stuck on the wall. And yeah, okay, and make an else if. So we check that are we on the right side of the wall. So box.x less or equal than destination rectangle dot x plus destination rectangle dot width. Okay, not plus width, dot width, and the box dot y plus box dot height is greater or equal than destination rectangle dot y. Okay, so if it is all true, then we are colliding on the other side of the rectangle, so in the right side of the rectangle. So we just set the x value to 0, and we use the box.x plus plus to not stuck the wall, and that's it. That was the collision detection, and I find the most confusing part this collision detection of all thing. Okay, and oh, one more thing, we have to define a boolean value for gravity. So nope, I think a little bit over, and no, we don't have to. So if not ground, so if we are not on the ground, then no, wait a little bit. Okay, I think it's over. That boolean value is needed. So bool, call it no collision, and this is equal to false whenever we call the move function, and if there was a collision, so if there was a collision to the alright, so we set the NC to 1 if there was a collision. So make NC equals to 1, and now whenever the NC is false, then we set the gravity to 5. so yval equal to 5. Let me see again. So if there was a collision, then we set it to true, and if it is not true, so it is false, then there was no collision, so we just increase the yval to 5. So yeah, that's the gravity in this game, because it's a simple game. And I think that's it for now. So we can try to start it, but I tell you that the result will not as you wait exactly. So ground layer.cpp ground, doesn't it go? Oh, save it. Okay, 64, there is a death rect instead of death rect, so 64 destination rectangle, so a T. Okay, the next one is 73. Okay, that bugs the 3 want to be bugs the W. Okay, and now after I save it, probably it will compile or not. Oh, backslash, actually it's a normal slash, and it wanted to be an equal sign if I remember well. So now if I start it, as you can see, the player is just go through. Okay, and that was where I stuck a little, so I have to write all of the values which are currently the death rect, the box, and so on. And I find out that somehow it is not working, but if I subtract 11 from the first so the first check, so from here I subtract 11, and if I add 11 to the second check, okay, and I subtract -5 from here, and I add +6 to here, and I add +6 to here, then it will work. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure why is this happening, so why is not that as it should be, but it is not as it should be. So if I add these numbers, probably it will stop. Yeah, okay, as you can see, I can just move the screen, not the player. Okay, the player is actually stuck on somewhere, but the screen is going, so that's why it goes through. Now we have to actually change that. Okay, so yeah, I don't really either sure why we have to add these numbers to it, but I write out all of the numbers which of the death rect and the box, and I find out that that's the difference between them. Yep. Okay, so the next thing to do is to actually go back to our game so go back to our game.cpp, and whenever we move, then we don't move the okay, so again, so if we are, so I wanted to say, so if the player coordinate is greater than 0 in this case, then we move the player as we move the camera. So in here, so if player 1 get xval, so if the xval is get rect x, so the x coordinate of the player is greater than 0, then we move the player itself. So player 1 set xval, so the x velocity of the player will be -1, as we move the camera. Like that. So as we move the camera, and we set the player speed to 0. Okay, so if the player okay, I will show you in an example. Okay, so here is the map. I hope the keyframes are okay. Right, so here is the map. As I move, so as I move in the other direction, so this will greater than 0, so we move the player itself. But as it will be 0, as you can see, we not move the player is stay at the same place, so 0, 0 coordinate. But we move the camera, and because the player uses relative coordinate to the camera, it seems that the player is moving as well, as you can see. And in the other direction, if the player x coordinate is less than 80, that's what I said, so that's what I set the value. So if it is less, then we move the player. As we move the camera, and the player stays at the same place, so the player x velocity will be 0. Okay, basically that's what it is. Okay, so I get it up. So the x val is greater than 0, then we move the player. As we stop the player and move the camera instead. Okay, and we do the other direction as well too, except we change the the direction. So if player 1 get rect, so if the x direction is less than 80, then we move the player. So then we move the player 1 set x. Well, so we set the x velocity, so set x val in here as well. So we set the x velocity to 1, as so if it is greater or equal than 80, then instead of moving the player, we move the camera. So player 1, and we set the x velocity to 0, because we don't want to move the player, we want to move the camera instead of the player. And I think that's all. We will try. Okay, it's compiled. So now the player just jump to the okay. So if it is okay, there is problems here. First of all, that the thing is not go back. So if I release the key, it is goes anyway. So DL key up. Okay, that part is good. Then the problem is here. If direction 0, oh, we have to make an as, because if we don't press any of the key, then the velocity is just 0. So as layer 1 set x val 0. So if I not press any key, then it will be just 0. Okay, so compile, run. Okay, so if I go now, and go now, actually it seems perfect for me. Try to check the collision detection. Collisions seems okay. As you can see, I cannot go inside that tile.